Hi, I'm Felisa, and today's vlog entry is just a little different. I had the pleasure of being introduced to someone online a few months ago now, and he, along with I believe two of his partners, are the co-founders of a group that is prevalent on Facebook, YouTube, and they have a podcast once a week, and it's called MMDT, or Married Men Don't Talk. And contrary to popular belief and the title of the group, these men talk a lot. But I was very pleased to know that there was a forum and a platform for men to come together to synergize around commonalities, talk about struggles, challenges, issues, accomplishments, etc. in a safe environment. Because let's face it, ladies, we often, not even often, society tells us all the time that we are free to share and explore our emotions, and there's no penalty for us in that. We can literally sit next to someone, a virtual stranger, and by the time the time that we share is over, we know everything about their kids, their mama and them, where they went to school, what they like, what they don't like, the state of their marriage, etc., etc. Because we're generally open books. We share everything all the time with everybody for the most part. So it was really rewarding and gratifying for me to see that there was a platform for men to get together and share. Now, I'm going to keep it straight with y'all. I listened to a couple of these podcasts and I was taken aback because I don't think that I was prepared for the things that men talk about because I am a lady. So some of these topics were a little bit, kind of it didn't set well with me at all, and I told him that. But we were kicking around an idea about a week or so ago, and he said it would be great if you listened to one of our podcasts and did a vlog about it. So that's how this came to be. And he'd already linked, he has a tendency to link a podcast to some of my statuses on Facebook if it's similar or if it's connected, and I don't know, he definitely promotes, so I can't blame him for that. He linked one of his videos, and it's called Why Single Women Need a Man. And I said that I would review it. So here we go. My disclaimer is this. I never want to come across as attacking or bashing, especially this forum, because I think that it's important for men to have this space, and my little opinion ain't gonna matter to them, no way. But I wanted to say that this video is in no way, shape, or form a bash or an indictment or a rebuke to anything that they've said, because they share that in a safe environment, and those are their beliefs and they're entitled to them. But I did want to talk a little bit about the podcast, and I will link it below so y'all can listen to it on your own. I do have to warn you that it is 3 hours long. I told y'all they talk. But I think that there's some good information contained in it. And if we are honest with ourselves and we listen with an open mind and an open heart, we may learn something. So here we go. And I had to take a lot of notes because they were talking a lot and they kind of jump all around every place. But some of the things that stuck out to me were this. There were quite a few men who were talking about women and how today's women really don't need a man. But at the same time, there was at least one gentleman who spoke up and said he had daughters and he raised his daughters, or he was raising his daughters to be self-sufficient. And so she could make her own money, she could take care of the bills, she knew how to cook, she knew how to clean, she knew how to do all of the things that were necessary and vital for her to take care of herself as an adult. And so one of the things that stuck out to me was this. The things that men raise their daughters to be, they don't appreciate necessarily in a woman that they meet if they're single. So, if you meet a woman that is self-assured, self-reliant, and can take care of herself, then men sometimes are offended and off-put by that. And I think that that's a little odd, because if you raise your daughters to be that, then the woman that you are with and the woman that you want to be with, I would think you would want to be the same way. But oh no, that's not the case. So, we kind of are getting a little bit of a mixed message here, because certainly when I was little, my grandfather was the one to tell me not to depend on any man. And it was funny because I was in church service one day, and our pastor asked us, how many of y'all women, your mamas or your grandmas told you to always have something on the side, always have your own bank account, do this, that, and the third. And a lot of hands went up. And I didn't, because my mother and my grandmother never told me that. My granddaddy told me that. My granddaddy told me, I can't repeat what he said, but my granddaddy told me, don't depend on no man for nothing. You make sure you have your own stuff. And I always remembered that. And I always carried that with me because that was something that my grandfather told me. Then my father and my mother divorced when I was really small. And so I didn't see my dad for a number of years. And when I finally did see him again, I was already married, I already had a family, but I really wanted to have a relationship with my dad. And so when he came to visit one day, he had an opportunity to meet my ex-husband. And I was really anxious to hear what his thoughts were on my ex and, or my then husband. And, because no matter what time had passed between us and no matter what had happened, I was still a daddy's girl. And so his opinion mattered to me. And I remember him telling me very simply, he said, baby girl, game recognized game. And I will never ever forget that as long as I live, because I think that was very telling, and it was very instrumental in terms of helping me to understand what I was lacking when I was picking a mate. And just as sure as my name is what it is, and even though I ain't gonna go into no detail, there is a reason for the divorce. So moving on. So one of the things that also came up, I'm sorry, I gotta refer to my notes, was what role do men really want women to play? And what role do women really want men to play? I do think that there is a lack of communication on both sides. And I mentioned this to a girlfriend of mine yesterday, and we didn't necessarily see eye to eye, but we weren't completely in disagreement either. But I think that a lot of times, ladies, we play games in order to get men. And that is something that we really need to stop doing. I am very upfront when I meet somebody. I don't like to cook. I'm not about to be toiling in that kitchen 24 hours a day. You know why? Because I have to work, and because I'm tired, and because I've raised an entire household. Nope. If you're looking for me to cook a 5-course meal every single day, I'm not your girl. Now, that doesn't mean that I will never cook and that I won't ever feed you. That's not what I mean at all. But what I mean is that if you place a high value on this hot meal that you got to have every single day, piping fresh out the oven, and you can't have leftovers and we can't make a reservation, then yeah, I'm not the one for you, because we're going to argue about that, because that's not something that I'm willing to do. But I find that so many women, whether it's cooking, whether it's sex, whether it's whatever it is that you said that you were going to do, or you implied that you were going to do, you don't keep that up. And I remember that my ex said something like that to me, something like, you've changed. He was never clear on what that was, but I think that over time our roles did change. And I would hate to think that he thinks that it was a bait and switch, but I am very conscious about that for my next relationship. And it's not that I want to go out and say I ain't about to do this and I ain't about to do that, but I do think that you have to have some open communication, and you have to be willing to say, what is it that you want? What is it that you're looking for? What is it that you are expecting for your mate to bring to the table? What is it that you're expecting from your mate as far as benefits are concerned? I think that a lot of times we leave a lot of that stuff up to chance, and then what happens on the back end is that we become bitter, disenfranchised, and all of the other disses, because we haven't had those comprehensive conversations. So at its core, what is it that you want? Not even in a global sense of what do men want, what do women want, because I think that everybody is going to want something different, because your values that you place on different things are not going to be the same. So I think that it's important to have those communication points early in your relationship, and then build from there as you go. Then there was another point that was made, that a lot of women have me, I scenarios. And I was kind of confused a little bit, I have to admit, because I'm not sure if he meant it as, women are spoiled and they're focused on themselves. And I will really go on the record, and I'm sure that anybody that's dated me will concur. I'm a princess. I definitely, want some attention, and I want some time, and I feel like I should be number one. So if that's demanding and me, I, then I probably am guilty of that. If he means self-centered and selfish and, unable to see beyond her own need to the needs of others, then that's a different conversation. And if we're doing that, ladies, if you're projecting that, if it's all about you, if it's all about, your needs and forget about everybody else, then that is problematic. And that's one of the reasons why we definitely remain single, because we haven't learned how to come out of self and embrace the concept of a union. Then something I don't even really want to go into, there was a lot of talk about, whether or not women need men because of government daddies. Now, I'm steering clear of this particular topic or going into depth on this topic because I found that to be a little offensive. I think that by and large, women who are having children out of wedlock, or women who find themselves in a broken marriage, or having to go through a divorce or a separation and finding themselves having to use welfare benefits or government benefits, are not looking for a come up with that. As a matter of fact, I think that they're probably looking for a way to get off of that. Do you have people who are content with being on the system and don't have any use for men? Probably. But I'm not comfortable with citing any statistics with any authority or with any degree of confidence without having researched that. And I would never put that on a woman or a man to say that all they want is a government daddy for their children and that the biological father be damned. Most of the women that I know who are single, who do have children, we would have preferred for our ex-husbands or the children's fathers to be as involved as possible. Now, I have male friends and I have heard from them on more than one occasion that this is not always the case. And my heart really breaks for them, because not just for them, but for their children, the absence of a father is detrimental to a household. It's detrimental to a child. And ladies, I'm telling you this the best way that I know how, with all the love that I can muster. I raised 4 on my own. It's not preferred and it's not optimal. Children need their fathers. And if you lay down with them and have these babies, then you should co-parent with them to the best of your ability. Now, sometimes that's not possible, and I get that, and I'm not saying that you should. If the situation is dangerous, if he's verbally abusive, if he's shown no interest in taking care of your children, then you can't beat your head against a rock. You're going to have to go on and do the best that you can. But if you have a man who wants to be there for his children, who's making every effort to see them, who's doing everything that he can in order to be a father, let that man be a father to those children, because this petty, he ain't got to do nothing for me. He don't have to be with you in order to be a parent to that child. You're going to have to get over that. He does not have to be with you in order to love that baby and provide for him. You're going to have to get over that. And you're not punishing him. You're punishing your children. They will grow up fatherless and they will resent you for that. So please get over whatever it is that you got going on. You're resentful of his new woman. That hurts. It stinks, I know, and you can be angry about it later on, but for right now, let that man parent his children. From somebody who was raised without her father in her life, not because of my mother, this was my father's choice. I'm being very transparent here. Please let that man be a father to his children. You get one chance to do that. Don't mess that up for them. Then someone said if a woman has an issue with relationships, she needs to look at herself. A lot of women think that they are all that and they aren't. My first response to that was, what? Excuse me? But you know what? He's right. Sometimes in our inner circle, we don't have any checks and balances. We don't have other people in our circles to be like, no, that's not appropriate. We're not doing that. No, you can't do that. You can't act like that. You can't sound off like that. And because we don't have that checks and balances, and we have people that's literally geeking us up, yeah, girl, you need to do that. You need to do this. We really think that we bring the A game when we're really not. So, sometimes we do have to look at self, myself included, because I think I'm great. But there are certain things and certain tendencies that I have that unless somebody loves me enough to tell me, I won't know about that. And I have a blind spot to it. Now, I'll say that hearing about those things don't feel good at all. it's hurtful and it's painful, and your first response is to deny it. But I think that there is some growth and some benefit in hearing things. One of the best things that has ever happened to me was that my own daughter had to tell me some uncomfortable truths. And at first I was like, girl, you can't tell me. But I'm so grateful to God for her, because if she hadn't pointed out certain behaviors or certain ways of thinking, then I would really literally go the rest of my life thinking that ain't nothing wrong with me. It's everybody else. And I think that we all are flawed. We all have blind spots. We all have, areas of our lives where we really need to get that stuff together. But unless somebody tells us about that, unless somebody really loves us enough and cares enough to not be a sycophant, not be somebody that's a hangers on, not tell us that things are a good idea when it's really, really not tell us that it's not cool for us to be vindictive and spiteful and nasty and arrogant and bitchy. You need people to tell you that, and you need them to be real with you. Those are your real friends. People that's gassing you up and letting you look ignorant out here in these streets because they get a laugh out of it, and they really don't want to see you come up and they don't want to see you win. You gotta replace your squad. Like, seriously, you really need to evaluate your squad. And then one of the other things was, we nag a lot, and we do. We do. I think in my last relationship, I became my ex's mama, and he probably was resentful of that. As a matter of fact, I'm almost sure that he was. It's almost difficult for a woman not to take on that role, because we care, right? We want to see you win. We want to see you be on the glow up. We want to see you be the best that you can be. We want to see you fulfill your potential. But ladies, there's a way that we can talk to our men and we can get them to be all of what we think that they're supposed to be, or at least get them to be on the right path. And none of that involves being his mama. None of that involves trying to force him to do something that he's not prepared or unwilling to do. A lot of times we want things to happen when we want things to happen. And one of my greatest weaknesses is patience. What we waiting on? I don't understand. And I honest to goodness, I struggle with that. And if you know me and you know me well, you know that that is not something that I'm good at. Once we make a decision, what we waiting on? So, ladies, sometimes we just have to fall back. We have to learn that our role is not always to force things to happen. There is a certain subtlety and a grace and an art to being a woman. If you really know your power, if you really know how to work the angle of being a woman, there's a way that you can get a man to do just about anything that you want him to. Just be cool. That's another vlog. And I'm still learning how to use that gift. So, I'll share what I know later on. So the next thing is, and I'm sorry that this is kind of skipping around, but I told y'all they was all over the place. The Jesus is my husband crowd. Now, I'm a Christian, and I think I've said that in other vlogs. I believe strongly in the Lord. I believe strongly in the Christian faith. But I do think that a lot of times women become so isolated and so closed and so reserved because we all believe different things on different spectrums. And, I will never tell a woman that she shouldn't listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit. I will never tell a woman that she shouldn't be inclined to believe the Lord and, wait for her Boaz and all these kinds of things. But I also believe that if the Bible tells us that faith without works is dead, then sometimes there's certain things that you need to put into motion in order to help you come to the relationship that you're supposed to be in. Sometimes I spoke with a good friend of mine who was in her 50s now, who was just a little disheartened and dissatisfied because she wanted children, but she waited because she was waiting for this man to materialize, and she really put all her faith in this. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong, but one of the things that she wonders is this: she missed some opportunities because she was expecting for this man to materialize in this certain way. I can't answer that question for her, but I do know this. I think that God said a couple of things. Number one, he said that it's not good for man to be alone. And so he placed Eve in the garden. He didn't tell Adam that he had to choose her. He presented and Adam chose. I also think that you have to occupy until your time, meaning stop closing yourself off to everything. Stop only making your outings Bible study and church service on Saturday. it's fine, or Sunday, it's fine for you to go out to the extent of your faith. I'm not saying that you have to go out clubbing or to the bars. If those things are fundamentally against what you believe as a core, then don't do them. But please, by all means, get yourself involved in a book club, take up a hobby, go roller skating, go to the movies, get together and get out, because I don't think Boaz know your address, boo. I don't think that he knows where you live at. So he's not going to show up at the house and knock at your door and tell you, come on out, I'm ready to claim you and redeem you as your kinfolk. That's a whole nother thing. But I think that sometimes we are going about day-to-day things and we shoot down guys that could be good potentials for us, myself included. So I'm preaching to the choir on this one because I'm hard on dudes, but that's me. But, I do think that there's a certain value in being able to stay open and receptive and not always feel like, he got to come with a sermon in his mouth and a Bible in the trunk in order to be with you. And while I think that Jesus is the Savior of all, that's not your husband. That's not scriptural. Jesus never said that. And if I'm wrong, somebody please post the scripture where he says that I am your husband. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. Not your husband. So once you have put someone in that role, once you have decided that your sights are all on Jesus, you're not open and receptive to a human being. You're just not. Just think about that. And let's see. Then a couple of guys were, in my opinion, sexist and saying things like women are coddled towards success. And I assume that he meant in more physical roles, and more manual labor kind of roles, where he was saying how, if a woman is able to do a man's job, then why does she have to have an escort and somebody to go with her to do those jobs? I don't know. I kind of got visions of like, a prison guard. I'm gonna need her to have some backup because she got a vagina and somebody might try and take that from her. Period. I really don't see the problem. Let her do her job and give her some protection. I'm not quite sure what that was supposed to mean, but I just thought that I would throw that in as a bonus to, so that people know that I actually watched this vlog or listened to this podcast, so that I could do this vlog. Then someone said that we have been told from birth that we don't need a man, and that and that's the message that goes forth from liberal colleges. I went to college, and that wasn't a part of any of my courses or any of my teaching. I must have missed those classes. But I will say that this, in follow-up to the whole college thing or the degree thing, someone did say that, women today are very accomplished and have degrees and we have great jobs and blah, blah, blah. We tend to lead with that. And we tend to overemphasize that to the extent that it turns men off. Now, generally speaking, if you talk to me, you don't know that I have degrees. I don't bring it up. Now, if someone asks me a direct question, then I'll answer them. If someone is, asking for specifics, then I definitely will give that to them. I don't hide it. I'm very proud of that accomplishment, but I don't just lead with, I got this degree and I do this and blah, blah, blah. I think that that's very pretentious. And most women in my circle think that that's very pretentious. But just like y'all don't expect for us to do it, please stop doing that to us. I said that in my last vlog about gold diggers or gold digging, and that's not impressive to a woman who has her own. And we don't lead with that because I don't believe in sourcing my value from what I have or what I do. So my role at work and my education, while I'm proud of it, yes, does not define who I am. And so we can talk about other stuff, but I get what they're saying. I think that the issue behind that is twofold. Number one, men are trying to figure out where they fit in our world and how they can get a job because they're interviewing, right? So they want to know where they fit, and we don't make any room for them. So ladies, in closing, because I know that this vlog is a little bit longer than most, but in closing, I will say this. We need to stop saying that we don't need a man if we really desire to be in a relationship, because you have what you say. I think that it's important to know that the term need is very broad. So while you may not need him to pay bills or to help you function or what have you, there is a certain companionship and a certain partnership that comes along with being in a loving, committed relationship. I'm just convinced of that. I think that most human beings, maybe not all, you have some loners that are out there, benefit from human interaction and human relationships. Your lateral relationship or your horizontal relationships along with your lateral relationships, your relationship with God and your relationships with people are what makes you a whole person. I don't think that any person should or could or needs to be all by themselves in this world without any connectivity. So I will say this to my ladies: there's nothing wrong with desiring a relationship. There's nothing wrong with wanting a man. There's nothing wrong with desiring to be married. And stop listening to all those narratives that tell you that you a strong black woman or you a strong... Even Superman got a weakness. You need to figure out what yours are and play to your strengths and occupy until your man comes. But by all means, please stop closing yourself off to love and stop making it so difficult for a man to be in your life, because they're out there. And again, I'm talking to myself when I say this, because like I said, I do make it difficult for the brothers, but we're going to have to present a little bit of challenge. I ain't saying make it easy for them, but sometimes we don't have to make a challenge an obstacle course and then get mad when they stop halfway through. I'm Felisa, and I thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it 2 thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, leave your comments below, and I will catch y'all later on. I'll also link the podcast to this vlog so you can see what I'm talking about. There was a wide, like a whole bunch of topics that I didn't even touch, and I took copious notes because I knew that I was going to have to refer to it. But it is good to listen to, you know, what men are talking about. I don't necessarily agree, but I don't think that that's the point. I think the point is to understand and to learn, and hopefully we can open up the lines of communication between the sexes. Oh, and this one final thought. Sometimes we have to listen to men when they tell us what they want. I know that that's hard to believe. We don't always know what they want, and we can't disregard what they want. Just like I hate when people tell me that I don't want something that I said that I want. Oh, you don't want that. I just know, for real, like I'm pretty in tune with me. I know what I want. So when men tell you that they want something or something is important to them, let's start listening to them. If you don't think that you can provide that, let that brother know ahead of time so you don't waste nobody's time. Just my thoughts. But I will catch y'all later on. Love y'all. Bye.